Hi, it's Wednesday, January 25th, and I continue to read and wonder my way through John's Gospel. And today we're in John chapter 1, verses 19 through 28. So we're through the prologue. The prologue of the first 18 verses of John's Gospel, where John sets up theologically, even poetically, who Christ is, right? God with God. Begotten, not made, from before time, light in the darkness, order in the chaos, the Word made flesh, and then that is, of course, then Jesus. The Word made flesh is Jesus, born in Bethlehem, but that Jesus born in Bethlehem exists from before time. So that's John has set that up, and now John will tell us the story. And just to make it clear, I'm referring to the author of this gospel, John's gospel. I'm referring to him as John. John will now also be talking about John the Baptist, and that is not the same John. Just to be clear, I've mentioned before the various Johns, but it doesn't matter. Just know at this point when we reference, we'll say this is the testimony given by John. Who we're talking about is John the Baptist, not the writer of this gospel. Okay. So, here we go. It's John 1, verses 19 to 28. This is the testimony given by John when the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, "Who are you?" He confessed and did not deny it, but confessed, "I am not the Messiah." And they asked him, "What then? Are you Elijah?" He said, "I am not." "Are you the prophet?" He answered, "No." Then they said to him, "Who are you? Let us have an answer for those who sent us. What do you say about yourself?" He said, "I am the voice of one crying out in the wilderness, 'Make straight the way of the Lord,' as the prophet Isaiah said." Now they had been sent from the Pharisees. They asked him, "Why then are you baptizing if you are neither the Messiah, nor Elijah, nor the prophet?" John answered them, "I baptize with water. Among you stands one whom you do not know, the one who is coming after me. I am not worthy to untie the thong of his sandal." This took place in Bethany, across the Jordan, where John was baptizing. So, what do we make of that? Well, there's a piece that jumps out to me right away, and it's not so much a wondering as much as it's an important bit of politics. And it's funny, I know this, but at the same time, it did jump out at me just as I was reading it. So it sort of comes back at me again. So the opening line, this is the testimony given by John when the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, "Who are you?" So before I do any other wondering, I want to acknowledge that phrase, John calls somebody the Jews. The Jews sent priests and Levites. And that's the first time John says it, but John will say it again repeatedly. The Jews, the Jews, the Jews. And I mean, I knew growing up as a kid, being taught this in Sunday school, the Jews, well, that just referred to Jewish people. And so you can get a definite sense of the Jews being against Jesus. A sense of the Jews, all Jews, being complicit or in fact even causing the crucifixion of Jesus. And that sets us up for a wonderful, no, wonderful's the wrong word to use even in jest, sets us up for a horrible pattern of anti-Semitism that will span millennia. And just this idea that the Jews, all the Jews, were responsible for the death of Jesus, were always fighting against Jesus, when in fact many Jews embraced Jesus and became followers of the way. And you can tell just the way that it's used here. The Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him. So the Jews in this situation, John is using what may be a colloquial term for him or one that we should understand. He's talking about a group of Jewish leaders in authority, because it's a group of people in authority who can send priests and Levites, right? So it's not just Pharisees, but it could well have been Pharisees. Is it the Sanhedrin? Is it, but whatever it is a group of Jewish authorities, religious authorities, who want to know what the heck is going on. Right? It's not all Jews, but the more we repeat it, the more we start to just sort of get into our heads this anti-Semitic notion that the Jews are out to get Jesus, and no, they're not. But there are some people who still don't hear that, and that's really too bad. I would be tempted to retranslate and use the word the Jewish authorities or a group of Jewish authorities, to take that off of all the Jews. But that's not for me to do, but it is for me to preach and remind people of that. Anyway, so a group of Jewish authorities, people in authority, want to know what's going on with John the Baptist. And you might wonder why that is. Well, we are told that thousands were coming to be baptized, that they were drawn by John's message. And even before John is saying that somebody greater is coming, something more than you can expect from me is coming, John was already baptizing. And John was baptizing, as he says here, with water. So baptism was not a new concept at the time. If you became Jewish, you were introduced into their cleansing ritual, and the first time you did it would be very much a complete immersion. It would be very much a baptism, and wouldn't necessarily call it a baptism, but that's how you became part. So this isn't a new thing. So for a Gentile to become a Jew, they kind of went through something like this. Well, John's doing it. He's doing it for everybody. And so you're the Jewish authorities. Okay, so what's going on? Are we making new kinds of Jews? Are we washing people out of one faith into another faith? What is happening here? Is this some kind? Is this messianic? They want to know that. Is this the heralding of a new age? And they're concerned because they're control freaks, perhaps. They just want to know everything that's going on. They don't want to lose power. That's sort of the way that I was raised. They don't want to lose power. They like to know everything that's going on in their realm, as it were. More sympathetically, I would say, they were also concerned about Pax Judea, which is an agreement between the Jewish authorities and Rome. And basically the deal is, we're not going to cause a fuss, and you let us keep being Jewish. You let us keep our faith, our rituals, our, let us keep all of those things, right? Let us keep the temple. Let us have our faith, and that seemed to be a good deal, okay? Because for those devout Orthodox Jews, the Pharisees, this idea that no, our faith is first and foremost. God is first and foremost. Let's worry about that. Then we can worry about other things, like empire building or what our place is or whether we're occupied or not occupied. But first and foremost, let's protect our ability to worship. Okay, they have the memory of the time in Babylon. They have been invaded. They have been in exile. They have lost their faith. So here we're hanging on to it. We're going to keep that. And so they prized that. Now, as time went on, also some factions profited. Like they did very well under Roman occupation. It was good for them. Others despised it. So they were always trying to keep a balance, to keep a lid on everything. So now along comes John the Baptist. He's doing a new thing. People are really getting into it. You would be concerned, will this disrupt Pax Judea? Could this ruin the peace? And Rome could retaliate, and we could lose the temple. We could lose the ability to gather to worship. We could lose the power that the Jewish authorities have over the Jewish people. Right? As long as you keep the peace and pay the tax, we're okay. But John the Baptist might be a threat to the peace. Might get people to stop paying the tax. So they are concerned. So they send some folk out to ask, some priests and Levites, people who serve in the temple, asking them, so who are you? And I'm not the Messiah. So he says he confessed and did not deny it. Meaning, yeah, I'm John the Baptist. I'm the guy who's dunking all the people. I am, yes. And by the way, I am critical, because he was critical of the temple and of the Jewish authorities. So yes, says no, I am those things, absolutely. I am that. He confessed, did not deny it, but did also say, I am not the Messiah. Now, when you think about that, if you think about what the first century Jew was expecting of the Messiah, well, the Messiah would be another David and would restore Israel to its greatness, to its political, to its military greatness. So, as much as the Jews may have been waiting for a Messiah, they also didn't necessarily want one right now. Again, Pax Judea. You don't want somebody who is going to go up against the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire is really, really big. This is not like taking on Babylon. This is not like the Amalekites. It's not like that at all. And so they want to check that. So Johnson, that's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm not the Messiah. No good. Okay. Are you Elijah? Now, Elijah, if I have my minor prophets right, and I think I do, I have not looked this up, but I'm going to tell you that in Malachi. Yeah, that sounds good, doesn't it? Pretty sure. Malachi has a reference, anyway, to Elijah coming again before the Messiah. So, you're not the Messiah? No, I'm not. Not the Messiah. Okay, good. Are you the one who heralds the Messiah? And he says, no, I'm not. And that is interesting to me. Because he kind of is Elijah. In fact, in Matthew's gospel and in Mark's gospel, so actually in Mark and they're copied into Matthew, in those gospels, there is an inference. Jesus infers that John is kind of Elijah. But here, in this moment, he says, no, I'm not. So again, it's like you don't have to fear the Messiah. You don't have to fear any great upheaval. Are you the prophet? No, I'm not. I'm not causing upheaval. Then who are you? We need to know, basically they're saying. What do you say about yourself? And then he does this really interesting thing. He quotes Isaiah. I am the voice of one crying out in the wilderness, make straight the way of the Lord. So he is acknowledging that he is heralding Jesus. But it seems to me that he is redefining. There are those who say Jesus is the Messiah. Yes. And we've decided what Messiah means to us. First century Jews, I think the Messiah meant a different thing. I don't think they had separated the idea of Messiah from the idea of restoring the kingdom, getting it back to the greatness that it had under David. The Messiah was almost second David. And in quoting Isaiah while denying that he's Elijah, I think John the Baptist is indicating that what's coming, who's coming, is not what you're expecting. It's not a restoration of David's Israel. It is not coming back into political and military might. It's not a return to that. It's not a return to greatness. It is the Lord. It is God's presence. So when I read that, I hear John saying, so let go of your ideas of a Messiah. Those ideas are too small. So on one hand, he's saying you shouldn't be threatened by this. I'm not the Messiah. I'm not heralding the Messiah. Yeah, so you needn't feel threatened. But you need to be prepared for everything to change. Because I am making straight the way of the Lord. Right? And he says, yeah, I baptize with water. And absolutely. But if you had eyes to see, among you stands one you do not know, the one who is coming after me, and I am not worthy to untie the thong of his sandal. So if you think that I'm a big deal or I'm causing grief, understand that I'm not worthy of untying the thong of his sandal. And you probably get this anyway, but the servant, the one who serves in your house, who unties your shoes to clean your feet when you come in from outside, that's the lowest job you can have. Okay? You work your way up from there to serving in the household, serving at tables, serving in the kitchen, all that kind of stuff. So this is the lowest of the low jobs. And so he's saying, yeah, I don't even deserve the lowest of the low jobs in comparison to the one who's already here. You just don't see him. So I find this is an interesting invitation to think about what is it that I expect from Jesus when I engage in the story of Jesus, when I talk about who Jesus is in my faith. Am I talking about a Messiah, or am I talking about something bigger than that, or at least different than that? I do hear people talk about Jesus like a Messiah, one who will restore us to greatness. Because we have this idea that being great is the goal. And I'm not convinced that that's the goal of faith, is to make me great, or make my group great, or put me above you, or put us above them. I think in the presence of God, I am humbled. I'm humble. I'm not worthy of untying the thong of his sandal. Think of some of our leaders, our celebrities, our political leaders. Imagine one of them, selling their latest movie or song or fashion line. Imagine one of them running for election and saying, I'm not even close to great. Don't think about that for a second. I offer this to you. I offer my service to you humbly, knowing that I'm not even worthy to offer this to you, but I'm doing it because I think I'm supposed to, and I want to do my best for you. Imagine somebody running for office that way, or again, imagine somebody promoting a movie going like, it's a very humble movie. I don't know how great it is. We've put our love and our sweat into this, and we kind of like it, but we'll wait to hear what you think. But that is what I believe God's presence invites me into a certain humility, where I'm willing to offer what I have. And if you take it, that's great. And if you don't, that's okay. Because my value is not in how much of my product you buy or how much you like this thing I produced. My value is in that it comes from God's loving me, God's presence with me. So I just know instinctively that what I do is of value because it's of value to God. And if you open your eyes, you might see that. If I open my eyes, I might see that too. The sense I get from John speaking to these priests and Levites is like, open your eyes and you can see this. This is not being intentionally hidden from you. You're just not seeing it. Because if you saw it, you wouldn't be worried. I know I'm going down a path, but that's where this is taking me, and it's all about this expectation of a Messiah. I mean, why doesn't John say, "Yeah, I'm Elijah. I'm the one who's coming before the Messiah"? Why doesn't John say the one who's coming after me is the Messiah? That will become part of the rhetoric. We'll say that in the Palm Sunday parade, right? Hosanna, Son of David. I mean, we're tying Jesus very much into that Messiah, and we discuss that now, and we will call Jesus the Messiah. But I don't think John wants us to do that. I think John wants us to see beyond Messiah and to see more. Because the other thing too, speaking as a Gentile, is that the Messiah was for the Jews. Is this John acknowledging, John who writes the gospel, as well as John the Baptist? These two Johns are both of them acknowledging that this is no longer a Jewish-only experience, that this is also for the Gentiles. This revelation is for everybody. This presence of God is for everybody. I wonder about that. And then that makes me, of course, wonder about my experience of Jesus and my faith. Is my faith for everybody, or is it just for me and my people? And then, of course, I go down a rabbit hole. Well, I mean, I don't want to force my faith on other people. Goodness knows we've seen how that works in the world, and it's not something of which we are proud. But at the same time, I would like my faith to benefit the world. So my faith makes me want to make the world a kinder, gentler place, a better place for everybody, whether they're on my team or not, whether we see eye to eye on matters of faith or not, because Jesus isn't just for me. What I discover in Jesus is meant to benefit everyone. At least that's what I'm getting. Before I wrap up, and I really should wrap up, but there's the last line too. This took place in Bethany across the Jordan, where John was baptizing. We've grounded this in a time and place. This is Bethany. In case you didn't know where Bethany, it's across the Jordan, where John was baptizing. So John's baptizing over here. Across the other side is Bethany. Why is that a big deal? I don't think it is a big deal. Except I do recall, I believe, Bethany is where Joshua crossed the Jordan with the ark. I think. I got to look that up. And maybe I will by the time I do this tomorrow, because it just occurred to me, why Bethany? Well, the Ark of the Covenant was at Bethany, if only briefly. And of course, the Ark of the Covenant is symbolically, as if in living metaphor, God's presence. Is this a little hint from John, who writes the gospel, that what we're talking about when we talk about Jesus is God's presence? I don't know. Anyway, you know what? With that little factoid there at the end, or at least my little wondering, fun fact. Might not be right. I think it is, though. But anyway, with all of that, I think I better stop now. Just offer a prayer. So let me do that. Let us pray. Loving God, thank you. Thank you for the gift of imagination and curiosity. Thank you for the opportunity to engage with you, with others. Thank you for this time of wondering, when we are invited to think bigger, think deeper, think wider, think more carefully about the words that we say, the faith that we share. God, may today's wondering invite us into a kinder view of creation, a broader view of you and a deeper understanding of who we are in relationship to you. We pray in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, through the Holy Spirit. Amen. That'll be it for me today, but I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Until I get to see you, God bless you. Please know that God sees you where you are, as you are, and that God's love moves through you in the world in amazing ways. There may be somebody that you talk to today, and just something you say makes all the difference. Don't plan for it. Don't worry about it. Just be you and know that God's love does work through you. Just know that you matter. God bless you. See you tomorrow.